Hi, I'm Auntie Tam, and I do content on mental health awareness and mental health in general. I also do a few videos on how to adult, but that's not one of those today. Today we are doing mental health awareness. And if you'd like to like and subscribe and click the notification bell if you haven't already done that, go right ahead. If you are new, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. I know it's been a little while because I've done this whole series on trauma, so I needed to take a little bit of a rest for a week just to gather myself again before I start making content again, because it was quite a hectic process. So now we're back to regular content. And today's topic was chosen by a friend. I put out a post asking what topics would you like to see, and I put a little list together, and today's topic is, so you're on meds. Okay, well, there's a lot to discuss within this topic, so I'd like to start off at the very, very, very beginning. So you've been given medication, you've gone and you've collected it. We'll talk about your emotions in a minute, but I want to show you what you're going to find inside your medication, like you do in all this. And the print size on this just so happens to be the exact size of an ant's butthole. Actually, I don't know that for sure, but that's what it seems like, that the print is the size of an ant's butthole. So this is what's going to come inside all medication, and I don't know why they make the print so small that you can't read it. So you might have to actually look up all of these bits and pieces up online. So, how do you feel about getting medication? Personally, I was really anti-medication for a long while because I've had some medication that didn't really agree with me. Particularly, fluoxetine worked in the beginning, but then it started to numb out my emotions. And then venlafaxine also worked in the beginning, but then I became more and more anxious, needing higher and higher doses, which led to all kinds of strange and wonderful side effects. Not so wonderful, actually. I was being sarky. So you may have some emotions around being given medicine, because I think none of us really wants to have to face the idea that we would have to take medication to be normal or to be like everyone else. That was my big issue with medication, is that I have to take a tablet every single day so that I could be like everybody else and not jump off a bridge, basically. So it really made me feel self-conscious, and it hit my self-esteem, and it made me feel weird and like sort of ostracized a bit, because here I am taking medication so that I can literally get up in the morning and brush my teeth. Literally, because I couldn't do that. There I was taking medication so that I could actually go to work, so that I could participate in life. And if you're thinking about it like that, that is actually quite difficult. It makes it worse for you, because that's what I went through, taking medication. And my very first medication was prescribed to me when I was 16. So I was at school, and here I am thinking I'm a complete nutcase, and being very self-conscious as a teenager at school, knowing that I'm taking medication just so that I could person. That's the best way I could put it. So I can person. And it really does a number on your self-esteem, because you would like to think that you can just live your life without meds, you can be normal. But here's the thing, okay, and I know I've used this example before, but if you had diabetes and you had to take insulin every day just so that you can be normal, so that you can be out in the world, working, talking to people, being yourself, you wouldn't think twice. because you would be thinking of the insulin as a life-saving medication. Antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication are life-saving medications. They are. Because how many of us, and we don't admit it, we don't talk about it, and we will do a video when I'm ready on it, but how many of us have thought of suicide or thought of death or even planned our own death, planned our own funerals? Don't tell me you haven't. Planned our demise in some way or another. The medication that we're taking for our mental health is life-saving medication. It took me a long time to wrap my head around this because I didn't like the idea that to be normal, I have to take a pill. But somebody who has diabetes has to take a pill to be normal. Somebody who has hypertension has to take a pill to be normal. Somebody who has rheumatoid arthritis has to take medication to be normal. Somebody who has thyroid issues has to take medication to be normal. There is no normal. Really, there's no normal. There's only normal what's normal for you. What society calls normal, not normal. There's no normal. So if you're thinking of your friend who has to take a thyroxine, I think it's thyroxine, to support their thyroid so that they don't keel over and die, and your friend who has to take insulin so that they don't keel over and die, what you're saying is that they've got the right to take life-saving medicine, but you don't because your life-saving medicine works on your brain. And that's where part of the whole stigma about mental illness comes in, because we are stigmatized about it. Even us, even the ones who are advocating for it, even me, I feel self-conscious and weird about it. I do. Even now, in this day and age, we feel weird about taking medication so that we can have enough serotonin in our brain so that we can actually function. With somebody who's taking insulin, somebody who's taking thyroid medication, aren't they doing the same thing? It's just that it's working on different organs. Ours is the brain and the gut, because there's a lot of serotonin in the gut. That's why when you start taking medication, you often find that you have a lot of nausea and diarrhea because the gut. And you can help yourself with some probiotics. Right. I want to get back to this really long list quickly because we often don't read it. We get our pills. We pop our pills according to what the doctor says, but we don't read this thing. Mostly because it's like printed the size of an ant's butthole, but also because it's like too long, didn't read, right? So what I suggest we do is to actually go and have a look online for the bigger printed text, so that you can actually have a look and see what is in your medication and what to expect. Because if you've been prescribed medication and you're just starting off on the medication, what you can expect is for the first week or so, you can upset stomach and nausea, maybe some insomnia, maybe some headache. Depends on the medication that you've been given. This tiny printed little form will tell you what you can expect. But in my experience I've taken fluoxetine, then laxofene, and now I am on paroxetine. So all three of those started out pretty much the same way, which was for the first week or so, I had an upset stomach, I had diarrhea, I had nausea, some ringing in the ears. I've got tinnitus anyway, but the ringing was louder, some headache, some insomnia, and with the fluoxetine, I had a decreased appetite. With the other two, it didn't affect my appetite at all. It just depends on you. I'm just telling you how I experienced it. You might experience it completely different. Don't expect any big changes in the first 3 weeks. It depends on how severe your depression is, but don't expect any very big changes in the first 3 weeks. When I started on the paroxetine last year, I had a steep lift off, what I call a lift off, which is really when you feel the meds working. So the very first 3 days, I'm feeling this lift off, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. I had energy, I was thinking clearly, memory, wonderful, wonderful. But then after the 3 days, it dropped. Obviously, there was a little bit of a boost to the serotonin. Then the lift off became a little more gradual after that. So it took maybe 3 months to kick in properly and to actually feel like it had done its work. It took a year. So you really have to be patient with the medication, because it might not be like this. It depends on the severity of your mental illness, depends on the medication you've been given, it depends on what's going on in your life and in your world. But do not expect any big leaps and bounds in the first 3 weeks. If you are in a situation where you are suicidal, there are medications that they give you that'll sort of snap you out of that state, but then they'll give you some other medication which will slow a lift off. That is something you need to talk to a psychiatrist about, not me. I'm not a psychiatrist, okay? So, that initial 3 weeks, you're going to ask yourself, why am I taking this medication? Doing nothing. I still feel the same. After about 3, maybe 4 weeks, you'll start to feel a little change. Maybe not dramatic, maybe dramatic, but you'll feel a little change. There'll be a little bit of memory's a bit better. Oh, my concentration's better. Oh, I can get out of bed. Whatever it is for you. But there will be a signal that there is something happening. And give it 3 months to start to stabilize, because you may find what happens during the beginning of taking the medication is that you have the lift off, and then you're kind of cruising along and everything's nice, and there's a bit of a dip. So, and you're like, why now? What's happening? Just ride it out. It's fine, because it takes around about 3 months to stabilize. I'm talking from my experience. It might take you 4 months, it might take you 1 month, it might take you 2 weeks. It's your body, not mine. So the medication takes about 3 to 4 months to stabilize. Sometimes, in some people's cases that I've spoken to, 6 months to stabilize, where you've got this sort of, but it's not that hectic roller coaster of depression. It's more like a gentle, undulating kind of sensation of emotions. So you are feeling you're getting better, but you don't feel like you're there. It took me until the beginning of this year, so I was on the medication for a year, to actually start feeling better. But that's because I was really, really, really ill. And then by around about June, July, because I'd made some changes in my life that affected me positively, I really felt like now I'm starting to get better. I'm really starting to move forward this year. So give it time, be patient. And if you have any questions, if anything happens that you are uncomfortable with, you go straight back to your doctor or psychiatrist, because the moment you feel like you've got no emotions at all, that's numbing out, that's dangerous. The moment you start having homicidal or suicidal thoughts, dangerous, because in this little piece of paper, which we don't read, the side effect of our medication is depression and suicide. Be very aware of that, because that's really the fine print. Because we can accept maybe the stomach upset, the headache, whatever. But what we don't look at is the other side effects like depression and suicide. Because there are medications, unfortunately, that do not have the effect on certain people that is desired. There have been instances of people who have been on specific drugs, I'm not going to name them, but they're very popular drugs, who have unfortunately committed suicide or have committed homicide. Few and far between, thank the 10 Buddhas, but be aware of these feelings. Be very aware, because we're working on the brain and we don't always look at that. The other thing that I would like to draw your attention to, and maybe I should do a video on side effects. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is you will see that on a lot of medications, they'll say one of the side effects is visual disturbance. Now, initially, I'm thinking my vision's going to blur a little bit, and that does happen. That does happen on some medications for some people. That visual disturbances means my vision's going to blur. I learned the hard way that visual disturbances actually means hallucinations. Yep, I'm being serious. Hallucinations. So, be very aware of what's in the fine print. Let me know if you want me to do a video on the side effects of medications as a follow-up to this one, because I personally think it's important, but and maybe I'll just do it anyway. But I mean, look at this. Look at this. Who's reading this? I mean, you need 5 magnifying glasses. You need a microscope. The hell? So anyway, I know this video is quite long. I do apologize for that, but this is an important topic. And now that I've opened the forum and I've started the conversation, do you have any questions on the medication that you would like to ask and you would like me to do a video about? Because I would like to do that. I would like to support you. Maybe you also want an in-depth video on the side effects of medication. Do you want to have more on the psychology of the medication? How does the medication work? What does it do? You know, that kind of thing. Let me know, because it's important stuff. Thank you so much for staying with me today and watching the video, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.